He won a date with the woman in the photo. He is serial killer Rodney Alcala. Serious, what are some seemingly normal images with disturbing backstories? Photo before the AAMA bombing in Northern Ireland. Almost immediately after this photo was taken, a bomb was set off in the red car beside the boy on his dad's shoulders. The father and child survived miraculously, but the photographer and 28 others died, while around 220 were injured. The picture was taken of David A. Johnston 13 hours before the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980. His last words were over the radio, "Vancouver, Vancouver, this is it," before going silent, and his remains never found. I don't know how to link stories, but the picture of Tyler Hadley in his kitchen holding a solo cup during a party is chilling. He had just killed his parents and their dead bodies were in the house while he had this house party. https://i.imgur.com/jg0lkmp.jpg This guy took a picture of a bear while in the woods. Shortly after he took that photo, he was killed by that same bear. Ayano Takumasu, a person in a red sweater in the background, lost her footing while posing for a picture and fell into Niagara Falls. Mark Jackson's basketball card. In the background are the Menendez brothers sitting courtside after they killed their parents. The picture from a hiking trip has an injured woman in the background. She and a friend had gone hiking and slipped off of a waterfall. Too injured to move, they were there for a day before being found. The woman in the photograph survived, but by the time they have rescued her friend was already dead. The pictures of the Dutch girls of Panama. Girls got lost in the jungle and were for days. A few months later a backpack with the camera, and these photos were found. The 17-year-old went missing on the morning of February 27, when he told family members that he planned to hike Haiku Stairs, also known as the Stairway to Heaven. The photo was one of a few photos the teen had texted to family members during his hike, and after extensively studying the pictures they noticed a man in one of them. The family is now asking for the public's assistance in identifying the man in the photo, hoping he may have more clues that could possibly lead to Pua's location. Last image of Thai diver Saman Kunan. He was transferring oxygen tanks for 12 boys and their coach, who were trapped in a cave. He got into difficulties and did not have enough air himself. He died after losing consciousness in one of the passageways. Sadako Sasaki statue with paper cranes. Sadako was a Japanese girl who became a victim of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima when she was 2 years old. She was diagnosed with leukemia at the age of 11 and given no more than a year to live. Sasaki's father, Shigeo, told her the legend of the cranes, and she set herself a goal of folding 1,000 of them, which was believed to grant the folder a wish. Although she had plenty of free time during her days in the hospital, Sasaki lacked paper, so she used medicine wrappings and whatever else she could scrounge, including going to other patients' rooms to ask for the paper from their get-well presents. Her best friend, Shizuko Hamamoto, also brought paper from school for Sasaki to use. A popular version of the story is that Sasaki fell short of her goal of folding 1,000 cranes, having folded only 644 before her death, and that her friends completed the 1,000 and buried them all with her. The picture was taken by the crew of a ship who saw this girl floating on a disintegrating float. Her whole family was murdered on a sailboat by their hired captain, who left her to drown with the sinking boat. She miraculously made it to the Cork life float. She drifted for 4 days, no water, no food, being burned by the sun. Upon hearing that she had survived, the captain killed himself. There was a tradition in Victorian England to take photos of dead people, often dressed in their best clothes and posed as if taking a family portrait. It's really unsettling looking at these. Sometimes the whole photo looks completely normal except one person looks a bit off, and you only realize when you look closer. It's also interesting because it shows how normal death was, back in an era where people weren't hospitalized for an illness, and so many children died in infancy. Death was a part of life, and most people had experienced death directly multiple times, so recording it was seen as recording normality as part of the grieving process. The picture was actually found on the camera of 2 vacationers who have swept away in the 2004 tsunami, which resulted in over 230,000 deaths. The RCA Victor logo painting of a dog looking into a gramophone, titled His Master's Voice, was inspired by the painter inheriting his late brother's dog and noticing the dog being intrigued by a recording of his late owner's voice on recordings. The Bridge Guy. This is a photo still from a video taken by two girls out for a walk on the Monon High Bridge near Delphi, Indiana in February 2017. They were both found murdered the following day. This picture was recovered from one of the girls' cell phones. The man is presumed to have killed them but has never been found. Two brothers pose for a photo in Sequoia National Park moments before getting struck by lightning in August 1975. It's the last picture taken of 18-year-old Jolie Callan by her ex-boyfriend before he shot her twice in the head and pushed her body off the cliff. The photo of the Uruguay rugby team in the plane before takeoff. Article with photo. If you weren't forced to be traumatized reading this in high school, in 1972 a plane holding a rugby team and their family crashed in the Andes Mountains and they were stuck there for months, forced to eat their dead family members, and other horrific things. They were also called monsters for doing what they could to survive after, some, returned to civilization. This picture of the Russian ambassador to Turkey Andrei Karlov standing in an art gallery about to do a conference, behind him is Mevlut Merdaltaz, the man who is about to assassinate him. Scuba diver taking a picture of his wife during a dive off the Australian coast accidentally gets a picture of the dead body of murder victim Tina Watson, who was drowned by her husband that day in 2003. Dutch teenager Gary Slock and his mother, Petra Langeveld, took this selfie and posted it on Facebook moments before Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 took off in July 2014. A few hours later the plane crashed was shot down by Russians killing all 298 people on board. This one's called the most beautiful suicide. At first glance, it looks like a woman resting peacefully till you realize that's a car roof twisted around her like bed sheets. She jumped from the top of the Empire State Building and just happened to land in this very graceful, peaceful way. Rosalind Carter, the First Lady of Jimmy Carter, had the unfortunate luck of being photographed not only with John Wayne Gacy but also Jim Jones, of the Jonestown Massacre. The photos might be the kind of things you'd see on office walls for middle managers or in restaurants, but due to events which would later come to life they have sinister connotations. Picture of the front of a car with two people in the front seats and you can see someone's hair in the background. This is actually the last picture of Princess Diana's bodyguard and chauffeur before the famous crash happened in the ALMA tunnel. Dottie and Diana, who was in the back seat, did not survive the crash. Henri Paul, the driver, died on impact. Her bodyguard Trevor Reese Jones required reconstructive surgery to his face. This photo of what looks like a few people in jumpsuits walking out of a building. In actuality, it's the last moment the crew of Challenger was photographed, a few hours before their launch. Their shuttle exploded just a minute after launch, but they didn't die then. Evidence indicates they died a few minutes later when the capsule hit the ocean. Denture clinic. These teeth on the side of a denture clinic in my hometown. The owner of this place killed 22 people in the worst mass shooting in Canadian history. This was a week ago. Smudge the cat and that Real Housewife. Even I laughed at it till I realized the housewife pointing her finger was arguing with a group accusing her of making up her husband's abuse. The guy almost blinded her. He killed himself. Not indicating he killed himself related to the abuse. But imagine living through those two things as a spouse. This woman has a child with this man. I think she's okay with it, but I was amazed. Just goes to show what's hidden in an internet full of disembodied images. Just a normal day with a family taking advantage of wildflower season and getting a wholesome photo. Just below the wife, a rattlesnake is in mid-strike towards her forearm. The wife was bitten and survived, but the dog did not. I guess the moral of the story is to check the tall grass. The man dressed as Santa Claus in the picture is Bruce MacArthur. He was a landscaper for most of the year and worked as the Agincourt Mall Santa during the holiday season. Between 2010 to 2017 he would lure men to meet up via a dating app, murder them, and spread their remains among planters' boxes at properties he managed. He was found guilty of 8 counts of first-degree murder and is serving life in prison. I know this thread is a little old now, but some morbid scrollers may find this fascinating. This photo is of Issei Sagawa, an actual cannibal from Japan. This photo was taken for a Japanese magazine after he was released from prison due to insanity. He was frequently on talk shows, reviewed restaurants for magazines, and even appeared in horror films. He wrote a book on his murder of Renee Hartevelt, and you can read in explicit detail about how his mind conflated eating her to a romantic act. Note, it is not for the faint of heart, it will not leave you. The start of the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix is one that I still struggle to look at. Car number 2, driven by 3-time world champion Ayrton Senna, would crash on lap 6, killing him, while in the background, you can see the stalled blue, white, and green car of JJ Leto. He would be hit by another car, sending debris into the crowd that injured 9 people. The previous day, Austrian Roland Ratzenberger had been killed in a crash, and Brazilian Rubens Barrichello was lucky to live in another accident. So, here is a man and a woman in the 1970s on a game show called The Dating Game. The smiling guy just won a date with the woman in the photo. That guy is serial killer Rodney Alcala. Sahar Chu and her daughter Elsa Jadidi in their seats ready to fly home to Toronto. The plane crashed shortly after taking off from Tehran's airport. Christina's World, a famous painting by Andrew Wyeth. A farmhouse in the distance, a woman sprawled on the grass, no picnic blanket though. A gorgeously detailed painting that hangs in the Museum of Modern Art. I spent some time with it, marveling at the brushstrokes and realism. Then I read the placard next to it. Christina was a lone woman, a farm owner who had suffered from a disease and could not walk. She crawled everywhere, and put up with a pretty grim life. Photo of Archduke Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary and his wife Sophie about to go on their drive. 1 hour later they were shot and killed by a young Serbian man named Gavrilo Princip. This assassination eventually led to the start of World War I. The top photo looks like a cop chillin'. It is a fake cop who, when the photo was taken, just got arrested after killing 77 people, among them approx 60 kids/teenagers, and injuring around 250 people. He set off a bomb in the city that killed 8 people and then went out to an island where a youth camp was held. He just started shooting, they were trapped on the island and had to swim to get off. Kids who didn't know who was shooting came to him for safety because he was dressed as a cop and then he shot them. An army photographer captured the image of her own death from an exploding bomb along with her comrades. Very sad. This image of Prince Andrew posing with an underage sex slave as well as Ghislaine Maxwell, and we all know about how evil she is. The last known picture of Christopher McCandless aka Alexander Supertramp. Whilst traveling around America he traveled into the wilds of Alaska and was later found dead in an abandoned bus he had made into a home. This was from a case in Denmark a couple of years ago. The woman was a Swedish journalist who was invited by the man to come with him in his home-built submarine. This was one of the last pictures of her before he brutally killed her and dumped her mutilated body different places under the water to hide it. A crazy man with a fucked up mind. This image of then President George W. Bush reading to a group of students at Booker Elementary School in 2001. His staff whispering into his ear the news of the attacks on the World Trade Center. This is one of the last known images of Manic Street Preachers guitarist and songwriter Richie Edwards. This was included in an interview in his home. 9 days later he would disappear after a stint in 2 mental health hospitals. This was included in an interview for Japanese magazine Music Life. A bunch of teenagers arriving at a summer camp. This is the ALF summer camp at Utoya, Norway, in July 2011. In a few days, these kids are going to be running for their lives from a far-right terrorist who will come to the island to kill them all. Not everyone in this photo will survive. There are a few adult politicians who came to visit the camp, which was for members of a political youth organization, but other than those photos they are all of the normal young people doing normal summer camp things. They have no idea that their lives are about to be shattered. The Columbine senior class photo. It looks normal until you see the 2 kids in the top left corner looking like they're pointing a gun. It gets worse when you find out that those kids are Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. Stephen and Katie Pladl on their wedding day. Stephen with his pregnant wife/his biological daughter, Katie, and his mother/her mother-in-law/also her paternal grandmother, Grace, and Katie's adopted mother and father. He goes on to murder her, the baby, and her adopted father before killing himself. Here are over 100 pictures taken by serial killer Rodney Alcala, aka the dating game killer. Alcala would say he was a photographer and convince people to model for him in remote locations. It is unknown how many people this man killed in his time as a serial killer. Any of these photos could be of people he killed. Thank you for watching Reddit Space. Please subscribe if you love these Reddit stories.